Hey, and welcome to my channel where I craft with latex. If you are someone who is interested in working with latex but don't really know where to start, this video is for you. I first started crafting with latex about 4 years ago and almost immediately jumped on a full cosplay project. I learned a lot during the process, but if you're a beginner, I would not recommend drafting an entire costume yourself and learning the basics on the go. So in this video, I'm showing you 3 projects that don't require a lot of materials or tools and are good for learning the basic techniques. Let's start with making latex bows, because you can make these in any size and use latex in almost any thickness. These also don't require any special tools, and you'll only need a small piece of latex and glue, or more precisely, contact cement. I will probably make a separate video about the basic supplies and tools that you need for latex crafting, but for now, all you need to know is that latex is glued together with contact cement, and usually the seams are wiped clean of dust and talcum powder with solvent before applying the glue. You can get most of this stuff on Amazon, and I have a link in the description for all the supplies I've used in my videos. So here I'm using a scrap piece of latex, and I marked the height of the bow as well as double of the width of the bow because we will be gluing the ends together so that this strip forms a loop. If you need your bow to be a specific size, you can add a little bit extra for the seam allowance, but if this is your first project, I would not stress about that too much. I'm using a rotary cutter and a ruler to get a nice straight cut, and I'm cutting on a self-healing cutting mat. If you don't have these tools, you can just cut the pieces off with scissors, but for any bigger projects, I would suggest getting these tools because you will not get clean cuts with scissors. These are also linked in the description. Here you can fold the strip in a loop and pinch it to check that it looks right. You can play around with the fold, but I pinched the ribbon so it folds 2 times and creates this classic bow shape. Next, I'm measuring the circumference of this fold, and what you want to do is cut a strip that is a bit shorter than the circumference because we will be stretching and gluing it over this folded part, and the tension will keep these folds in position. I had to keep making mine shorter too, so don't get frustrated if you don't get this right away. I glued the ends of the big strip, and before I applied the glue, I used a little bit of water to clean off the seams, and I let it dry before applying the glue. I would normally use solvent for this part, but I just want to show you that you can get away with not using solvent in some cases as long as you have contact cement that doesn't require thinning. With this project, you should be able to get away with slightly thicker consistency. I'm using a plastic palette knife to spread a thin coat of glue on both surfaces that will be joined together, and I let the glue dry out a little bit before attaching the seams. So if your latex curls when you apply glue, don't worry, let the glue sit a bit and the latex should straighten out. Oh, and always work in a well-ventilated area even when you're working with just the glue, because there's still solvent in the glue that is harmful to you and anyone around you. For the same reason, I'd recommend using nitrile gloves as well. I know I'm not setting a very good example here with my other hand exposed, but if you plan to do a lot of crafting, take the safety recommendations seriously. I used a seam roller to press down the seam. If you don't have one, make sure to press the sides together with your fingers very well. And here's a trick for keeping the ribbon folded while you try to glue that tiny strip around it. I used a small rubber band, and you can find these at any store that sells hair accessories. Next, I'm using another hair accessory to pull through this thin strip of latex. This is going to be a hair tie. You can also use a regular hair tie, but you would have to loop the middle strip through before gluing it. You can also attach a hair clip or something else depending on how you are planning to use your bow. I'm gluing the ends of the strip together and letting the glue cure for at least a day. The rubber cement works differently from traditional glue, so it needs some time to form a lasting bond. And after that, your bows are ready to be used any way you like. The next project is super simple, but I've added just a bit of complexity to give you ideas. We're going to make a simple choker necklace. I'm starting by marking the height of the choker and then the circumference of my neck. If you want to make this super simple, you can just make the strip about the circumference of your neck, glue the ends together so that the choker is just a bit smaller than your neck, and once you stretch it over your head, it should fit nicely. However, I don't like to stretch things over my hair and makeup, so I'm going to make this choker with plastic snap button closure. For that reason, I'm adding a bit of extra to the length because I will be folding the ends and gluing a bit of rubberized fabric in between. This makes the area under the snap button stiff so they don't pop out when the latex is stretched. Honestly, this might not even be necessary for a project like this, so if you don't have rubberized fabric, you can probably just fold the latex on itself and add the snap buttons, and if the buttons come off, you can try to glue another piece of latex in between, which makes that area a bit thicker and less stretchy. But if snap buttons are not working for you, you can use any other type of mechanism you can think of. Just be mindful that some metals can react with latex and cause discoloration, and in some cases even degrade it. But if this is your first project, don't worry about it too much as long as you keep the metal parts away from other latex clothes. I got these snap buttons from Amazon, and the kit that I got comes with an awl and this hand tool. This kit should be linked in the description as well, but the way that these work is that you punch through the latex with the awl and you push through the spiky part of the button. Then you put the stud part of the button on the other side and push these things together with the tool. And then you would repeat it on the other side, but instead of the stud piece, you'll add the post part of the button. I put 2 buttons on both sides, but depending on the width of your choker, you might only need 1 on each side. You want to get pretty close to the edges though, or else they will not lay flat when you put the choker on. This thing you can wear immediately if you make it this way, and it is such a versatile accessory and works with so many different styles and necklines. The last project is going to be a bit bigger, but is still quite beginner friendly. This is going to be a belt with a peplum skirt. For this, I'm using thicker latex for the belt part, but you can make this from thinner latex as well. The latex I'm using here is about 1 mm thick, but you are most likely going to work with 0.4 or 0.5 mm latex, which is going to work for this too. However, if you do have thicker latex, that would work very beautifully for this whole project. In fact, it would give nice structure to the skirt and it would make it less likely to stick down to other layers of latex. If you work with thicker latex, the belt measurement should be close to your waist measurement as it doesn't stretch as much as thinner latex. And for thinner latex, you can make the belt about 10% smaller than your natural waist. Here I'm cleaning the seams and adding glue, but I'm leaving a gap because I thought it would be a good idea to just fold this and loop through the circular closure mechanism I'm using for this. However, I would recommend just gluing this around your buckle or whatever you'll be using. Or at least I'm not recommending these circular clips because it's annoying to push this through the latex loop every time I want to put this thing on. You'll see what I mean. I'm also gluing a strip of thinner latex on top of the seam because this particular latex doesn't like to stay glued, but you probably don't need to worry about this step. Here I'm trying to get the circular clip on, which was a bit of a struggle. I could have probably waited for the glue to cure and then add a bit of dressing aid to get it in there, but whatever. I recommend you just use a traditional buckle for this. Just remember what I said about the metal earlier. These are also super cheaply made, as you can see, but these came in a pack, so I was able to use another one. Next, I'm making the skirt part. For this, I'm using 0.4 mm translucent smoky black latex. The peplum skirt is actually a circle skirt, so we need to make some calculations. But don't worry, we can use an online calculator for this. Just type circle skirt calculator into your search engine and you should find several options. I'm making a full circle skirt because I like the fullness that it gives. First, I'm using my tape measure and rotating from one point, I'm marking down the length I want. Then the calculator has given me my waist radius, which I'm using to mark down the waistline. This will depend on your waist measurement and whether you are making a full circle skirt, a 3/4 circle skirt, or a half circle skirt. You can get the waist measurement for your project by measuring the belt you just made and deciding where you want the skirt to start and end on the belt. Then just plug that number in the calculator and you'll get your radius. So a full circle skirt is literally a circle cut out of the material, and here we have the other half of the circle. Next, you would repeat these same steps to get the other half, and you would then glue them together from one side. If you wanted to make an actual circle skirt, you could then add a waistband and glue the other end together as well, but for this peplum skirt, we leave the other end open. If you want, you can also taper off the open ends and round them out a bit, but to keep things simple, I'm just going to leave them as is. You can make this belt with just one skirt, but I'm going to layer it with another skirt to make it even fuller. Here I've cut out a full circle skirt in black, but I made it a bit shorter. The radius for the waistline stays the same regardless of how long the skirts are. I will then glue these skirts together at the waist so it will be easier to attach them to the belt. I've also made the top skirt a bit shorter at the front so you can see more of the layer under it. Before you start gluing things together, it's always a good idea to double check that things look right. For example, if your skirt looks like they're too long, you can still cut them before gluing. You can still cut them shorter if you get to the end and realize that things are too long, but it's a bit easier to do it beforehand. So to glue these things together, just apply glue on the waistline of the skirt and the belt and start gluing the waist to the belt. I know the curviness might look intimidating, but this should be really easy to glue down. Be careful not to stretch the skirt part too much though, so it doesn't end up too long when you get to the end. And once you get there, you are done. Just let the belt cure for at least 1 day. I usually like to wait multiple days just to be safe, and then you can wear this with whatever you want. The possibilities are endless. I really hope this video was helpful and inspiring, and if it was, please hit the like button so that this video gets recommended to other people as well. And don't forget to subscribe for more latex crafting videos. Meanwhile, check out my channel for more project inspiration and how to clean, store and take care of your newly made accessories. Thank you so much for watching this video and happy crafting!